I'll run the intro and get the show on the road. So we should be live. So I'm gonna...
I'll do my standard restarting of the Twitch.
Yes, the spam, the refresh, the F5 at least 6 to 7 times for me is the right number.
I actually have a dedicated F5 key for the first time, and I don't even know how long.
Cool. It looks like, well, at least on my screen we're live.
I'm seeing it. I look a little squished.
You might be. Yeah. When I crop them, I have to resize them manually, and it doesn't let me.
Do you want a perfect circle?
Yeah, it doesn't look perfectly.
We all look a little skinnier on the show.
I try.
How does this look? Does this look right aspect ratio?
Oh, man.
What's that?
It's a bearing for a.
It's a one of the spinner thing.
Spinner that's a plank of wood.
Oh yeah, I'm squished.
Anyways, I think yeah, you're pretty squished. Don't worry. So are the rest of us. It takes like 20 pounds off Bektour and I.
It's
even taller and skinnier.
Camera magic. I try. I make it work best for everybody.
Huey really thinking about like the deep stuff here that we're not. Anyways,
let's roll with this intro and.
We have to trust that he was.
That was both intros. Bektour, take us away. What's
like,
happening?
Really long.
I was gonna say we just have to trust it was going, but because we can't hear
okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Top Clack, the podcast or live stream about mechanical keyboards and people who are interested in them. My name is Bektour, and here are my two co-hosts, Huey and Brian. And today we're having a special guest, Jack from Ortholinear Keyboards, the man behind the Planck, Prionic, some other keyboards, the GMK, etc., etc. And yeah, welcome. I think you're like one of the most successful keyboard drops out there, or like.
I don't know what most successful. I think we surpassed the White Fox last week as being the most sold, but I'm not sure if that means most successful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think the Planck in particular is one of the most popular enthusiast keyboards on the market.
I
think
definitely
it's
agree.
The most popular 40% keyboard at the very least.
So
it's incredibly popular in Japan, so I tried to shield this live stream like a Japanese community as much as possible this week.
It is really popular in Japan?
Yeah, because Japan has a really big push towards smaller keyboards because you don't have much space. So like 60% like HHKB are very popular, but 40% are even more popular.
I never really thought about that. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you go to the Meetup, Plancks are like the most popular 40% out there. There was a guy with a minivan, so there was like only one with minivan for a whole Meetup. Usually there are people with Ortholinears.
Yeah. So Jack, the man behind the Planck. I think a lot of people here would definitely want to hear about how OLKB started up, and I think it's kind of probably tied into the story of the origins of the Planck, and I was wondering if you could share that with everyone here, because like everyone's been saying, it is definitely one of the most popular enthusiast keyboards, so hearing a little bit of keyboard history would be great.
Yeah, I mean, so it started about 2.5 years ago. I made my own Ortholinear keyboard, which is a 16 by 5, I think, and I made it out of acrylic and got it laser cut and everything through Pinocchio, and I think I subscribed to RMK, then I posted that the next day, and it was okay, like, it was whatever. I was pretty excited about it, because it was my first time interacting with the community and everything. And eventually, this guy named Pierre posted this 40% idea he had, and it was, at the time, it was Ortholinear, and he went through like 20 different revisions just from like people giving him notes and everything. And one of them was Ortholinear, and I was like really curious about that, and so I just pinged him about it and started asking questions, and he eventually changed it back to staggered after someone suggested that they ditched that. It's just like, okay. So we ended up talking, and we came up with the name Planck and kind of developed a few different layouts. One of them was the MIT and the grid, We also had like a PC and Mac version, which had like, I'm trying to remember what the layouts were, but they had like 1.5 and a 1 and a 1.5 along the bottom row. And so initially, the PCB supported like all those different layouts. And I think eventually it got whittled down to being supported the grid, the MIT, and then this one layout that had like the 1.25 unit all the way across, and like a different spacebar thing and a bunch of different stuff. Anyway, yeah, I ran a small group buy for that in like November, I think, or December of 2014. And I don't remember how many orders or how many people were interested at the time, but it was, I think I ordered like 10 of them, 10 tops and bottoms from Big Blue Saw. And me not having any CAD experience whatsoever caused the place not to fit, and so all of them were too small. And so at this point, I was like, well, I can't sell these. This is before I got any orders or anything. It was just kind of an interest check. And I filed one down and made the first plank that was from metal plate. I think Pierre did the same thing, but he had acrylic, so it actually fit and like, turned into a keyboard and everything. But yeah, after that, I posted it and then started like trying to sell them and turn it into a little thing. At the time, I was working for a startup that was doing pretty well, but they decided to stop investing money, and so I stopped getting paid, and then it kind of shut down pretty shortly after that. And I was like, well, I might as well like try to do this as a hobby. So I had some money I could put into things and start like the first run and everything. And that's when I started talking to my shop here locally and got things rolling. And we got the first batch, and things went out. And I think at the same time, like shortly after starting the Planck and everything, I developed the Atomic, which is supposed to be like the like the 60% keyboard for ortholinear side, but obviously didn't work out that well. But it it kind of like just kept growing and growing. And like last year we started the subreddit, which is kind of a big milestone, I think, because a lot of like a place that wasn't RMK would kind of be secluded and like have our own thing without having to bug everybody about ortholinear stuff, which I'm sure some people were interested in, but other people were just didn't want to see any of that stuff. So yeah, and that kind of brings us to here, I guess. But,
cool. So what was like the theory behind the Planck originally? What was the drive to actually design that layout and bring that to market?
Well, I mean, like all great layouts, it was a justification of what we had. So I saw that, and after thinking more about it, it made sense to have like, we just described this in the video and on the drop page and stuff. But like you have your home row, which is like your 4 keys in one hand, and then like all the keys around that are basically you can reach comfortably. Anything farther out from that is kind of too hard to reach. And so that's kind of the mindset we take with how it should be structured in terms of the layout. Obviously, like the lower keys, the bottom row doesn't really fit that mindset because there's no way to really contort your thumbs over there. So those are kind of treated as like a like island keys would be, like arrow keys on the side or something like that. So
cool. Where did the name Planck actually come from? How does that fit into what this product is?
Well, it started as like so the tagline for the Planck length, or the Planck length, is that anything smaller doesn't make physical sense, and we're like, that's perfect for this keyboard too. Like nothing smaller does it doesn't make sense. So
that's cool. Okay.
That works out really well.
Yeah, and then it's also like a physical plank. It's just like a piece of wood has like those proportions.
So just to clear this up, let's talk about if it's Planck or Planck. because we don't want to technically be wrong here, and I think a lot of people have been confused because we've been saying Planck for a while now, but right. A lot of people also say it as Planck.
Well, my official way of saying it is Planck. That's how I have always thought of it. But if you're going to get technical, like Max Planck's name would be pronounced Planck if you're German, but I mean, if you're taking with American accent, it's going to be Planck, no matter how you look at it. So
okay, so the bottom line is either way is correct.
Oh yeah. I don't try to say either one's wrong. It's just wherever you're from is going to kind of dictate what it sounds like. So I don't try to be specific about it. But
cool. Okay, so let's talk about some of your other projects. So you've got the Preonic, and then you also have the Subatomic.
Yeah.
Is there an Atomic?
Yeah. So we have the Planck, which is a 4x12. We have the Preonic, which is a 5x12. Then we have a Subatomic, which is a 5x14, and then the Atomic, which is 5x15. And the Atomic is kind of special from the other three because it was just like there's way too many configurations on the PCB. I don't know if you guys remember those charts I had last year, but like you could put keycaps anywhere on that thing, and it would work. But it was kind of, I feel like, like there's too much option anxiety with where things should go, and so I feel like that's kind of contributed towards it not doing so well. But people still like it, and they still want it back, so I consider it to be there still. But yeah, there's those four, and then obviously I have more planned. Like in the future, maybe we'll do bigger ones and kind of do some ones with islands. That's one thing I wanted to do is have like these core three. It's like the Planck, Preonic, and subatomic, and then on top of that we'll have all those combinations, but with like numpads on the side, on either side is kind of my goal. We're kind of figure out the technical details with that, but I want to do it so we can put the numpad on the right hand side, but also the left hand side, just to kind of have like options, and then possibly even like a function row or a number row above all that. So.
Okay, so you said earlier about the Planck, is that layout and size work particularly well because you have so many keys close to each other and you don't have to go very far when you're typing.
Right.
Now on something like a larger keyboard, like 60% or any larger sizes that you have, do you think ortholinear still makes sense at that point over something like staggered?
Oh yeah, I mean, for when you go bigger, it's really just taking the Planck's mindset and saying, okay, I want to reach a little farther, or like I don't have to mess with layers like quite as much. So that's where the Preonic comes in, because you have all the number row and everything, and you have two more keys besides the number row to kind of customize however you want. And then the subatomic takes that a little bit extra, and so you have 5 keys on either side. You can do whatever you want with if you need to, it's basically cutting down on the layer access. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think ortholinear pure hands just makes more sense in terms of reaching keys. It makes more sense like in a mindset layout. You're thinking, okay, where what key is going to be where? It's going to be right above this one, right below this one. You don't have to worry about like having going up the static. And then once you get to the number row, you go they go straight back up again. So it kind of eliminates a lot of that. And we talk about what we have in the past. So I'm not sure how much you guys have talked about it, but like where the keyboard comes in. From the typewriter, that's where we get the staggeredness, and that was all because of the physical limitations of the typewriter. Having to keep it, going right back there, but like having to keep the hammers separate so they're not all on the same line. Which is funny because like you can do. So something I've been thinking about is taking the typewriter and then making it so it's actually ortholinear, which is possible, but just wasn't something that was done at the time. So you basically have like like an offshoot that would come over and under rather than just coming down. There's no real limit to doing that. It might mess up some of the action and stuff, but I think that's overcomeable, I guess.
Okay. So you're kind of like the pioneer of ortholinear layouts. So like when you started doing this, were there any other people trying to do ortholinear layouts, or was this kind of like your thing in this community?
Well, I mean, there's Ergodox, which is I think a close. It's pretty close to ortholinear. I think it kind of takes that same mindset as like rethinking what the keyboard is. Of course, that goes back to kinesis and everything too. It's not just Ergodox, but as far as people like me, I think Blockus, I think he started around the same time I did. Yeah, I remember he did like I think he opened his store. I remember making a comment like "Welcome to capitalism" or something on his like first post or something as a joke. But yeah, it was. He did the same time I did. And he has, he's his own firmware and everything too. It's just like he's done so much with just starting from the ground up. It's just so impressive. I thought, but now I haven't really talked to him much about anything he's done, but it's pretty cool. I refer to him. I think I have him linked on my site, and I keep pointing people there if they want something a little more, if they want to do split stuff. And now obviously we have the Let's Split too that does it as well. But yeah.
So earlier,
I met him in last December in Hong Kong. Actually, we went to Kailh. That was pretty fun. Yeah.
So earlier, Brian did mention, you're in a way kind of the pioneer of ortholinear. In my opinion, you're more of also the pioneer of like small form factor keyboards, because before the Planck, there wasn't anything. Before the Planck 2 years ago, I remember that I was really into the community. Everyone was about 60% 2 years ago. It was all about the Poker 2. Everyone was hyped waiting for the Poker 3 to come out because everyone was like, oh, the next one will have RGB. It'll come with aluminum case and all that fancy stuff. And you came out with the Planck, which was great. With such a small keyboard, do you ever feel like, in a way, like, yeah, I'm kind of like the inspiration for all these even smaller keyboards today? Because in a way, it was kind of a challenge as soon as you named it the Planck, the smallest something could be. It's kind of like
Right.
So there's people out there who can't be like, no, please.
Well, there's like 3 different projects that are taking
There's the
like, 30%
Miura
seriously.
32, the Seabright, I believe, the Minorca. There's a few.
Well, yeah,
the
they do
banana.
40%, but they even go they go even smaller than
Smaller,
that. They do
yeah.
like the 3x10 or like the or 3x12 or 4x10. So.
The Gherkin and the Miyuni
Yeah.
are both they make the Planck look big.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, and I told them, like, they reached out to me, like, hey, do you mind me doing this? Like, yeah, go ahead, like, please, like, we're happy to support it in QMK, it'd be awesome, so, yeah.
Do you think anything smaller than the Planck is actually realistic to use, like, functionally as a daily driver?
I mean, of course. I mean, people look at the playing as like, oh, how do you use that thing, you know, and I know that, like, I use it on a daily basis, and I've tried to switch to Prionic in terms of, like, making it more, like, the standard, you know, because I kind of want it to be, like, our flagship model, because it's a little more easy to access in terms of the number row and everything, but, I mean, people like the Planck more right now, at least until we get the drop up, so... but no, yeah, totally. I could see people using 30%. I mean, there's people that use probably even less keys than that. I think like the was it the shortcut? Have you guys seen that? Shortcut.gg. That's it's like a little tiny gaming keyboard. I was talking to them a little bit about trying to get GMK working, and they have I forget how many keys they have total. I think it's like 30. Yeah, that link.
Yeah, that keyboards that we weren't so enthusiastic about that keyboard last time we brought it up.
Oh!
Wait, which one?
Okay, I remember
Called the shortcut.
this.
The shortcut.
That was pretty cool. Like it takes it from
I remember it now. Yeah, we
I feel like that's not very common in terms of like ergonomics. Like obviously, you can try to argue the Planck or the Prionics like for gaming or whatever because it has the same like that setup, but no, I think it's. Yeah. I think it's really cool.
We have talked about this in the past. I actually think it looks pretty neat. I question how usable it is as, you know, a typing keyboard.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, that's not really their goal either. So but Algernon, have you guys know him? Yeah, he's worked on a lot with them. He's actually working on the keyboard I/O firmware to get it working with a shortcut, which is even cooler. So yeah. Yeah, and then Andy mentioned the steno keyboards. Yeah, and those have
stenos are super.
You know, that's a whole.
It's different category of different typing. I mean, the average stenographer is 200 words per minute.
Yeah.
They're
the sounds.
It's crazy. Yeah, they're not typing letters, nouns, vowels, and consonants. They're typing sounds.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy. Knight, the co-founder or the founder of the Open Stenography project.
Open Steno. Yeah.
Yeah, she has a talk where she talks about programming and with the Steno keyboard, which is crazy. I don't know if I can do that.
It's so fast in Steno.
I have a hard enough time doing it now. So.
Actually, there is a similar movement in Japan. There is a so-called thumb shift input method, which is supposed to be more natural than the other input methods that are currently on the market for Japanese language. And what people are doing is there is a whole movement in Japan where people mangle the keyboards, like they cut up the space bars, set up switches, and have kind of like a split space bar which they're using to switching between the how do you call it, the writing systems, because Japanese has 3 writing systems.
Is that where they have I've seen, I think it's Japanese keyboards that have 9 symbols per key, and then you can switch between those 9 layers to get each key? Is that similar to that?
Yeah, kind of like that.
There's a lot.
For instance, I think I have my MacBook right here. Hold on a sec. I have a Japanese keyboard here.
Japanese MacBook.
Yeah.
Really?
That JDM MacBook.
Like you can see, there is kana key and the English Romaji key, and there are smaller Japanese letters.
Oh, wow.
Some of them has 3.
So I think people are also cutting out this shift key and get it even smaller to get more customizability.
Is your control like that? Like, is that special, or is that how it came with the control?
Yeah, so the caps lock is usually down there in control, like HHTV style.
Okay.
That's just how they do it in Japan. They're just
Yeah.
they're cooler.
The right way.
Yeah, they do it the right way.
Right.
Yeah. There is a split backspace too. How about that?
That's true.
Wait,
Yeah.
really?
All Japanese boards have
Yeah.
the split backspace because they have a 1U backspace.
Oh,
It's a 1U
seriously?
backspace on that number row.
Like right here.
Oh, okay.
All the way at the end, that delete, right under the power
Okay.
button.
Wow. Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's ISO layout, but with
But with
It's
the
almost like-
is that
split,
extra key?
with, yeah,
Yes.
but yeah,
Oh,
extra key.
wow.
Interesting.
Well, almost ISO. They have this. They have the standard left shift instead of the shorter
Instead of
left shift.
split one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the superior 175 right shift.
Yep.
The superior. All right. So, all right. So, Jack, you're one of the very lucky handful of people in this community that gets to do keyboards as your job.
Yeah.
So, when did that start, and how has that journey been for you?
Well, like December 2014 was when I started doing it, and I'm trying to remember. I think at this point I might have been tutoring as well. I have a hard time remembering the past. Future's fine though. But I was when I stopped with the startup. And that December, I just started the company. I already had like some business stuff developed because I have done like web development and stuff, like consulting. So I already had most of that set up. So it was really just like getting a DBA for Ortholuna keyboards and going with that. And yeah, I started the store through like Magento and the website and everything like that January maybe. And yeah, it's been it's been all right. The mass drops, I think we did a mass drop that year that really helped, like,
Yeah.
you get above poverty line, which is nice. And obviously the mass drop, like, last year. Was it last year? That was last year. The mass drop this year will help with that too, so, yeah.
Yep.
That's good to hear.
The drop
I
right
remember.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned you didn't like the fact that you ordered pre-soldered boards.
Yeah. So the first mass drop, we've had 3 mass drops. This is the third one. The first one, I naively offered as an assembly option with all the boards, which at that time was,
Yeah, that's tough.
That's
tough, man.
I mean, and I remember, I don't know if it was Yanbo or Kunel that I was like, do you want to, set a max on this? It's like, nah, we're fine. So, we pretty quickly, we pretty quickly got up to like 350 soldered boards, I think. Somewhere around there.
Wow.
Close to 400.
Oh.
Was it just you that was supposedly building them?
No, I got lucky. So my girlfriend, now my fiance, is having it, or was soldering with me, and then I shared a building or an office with a friend of mine who has a daughter who was able to help solder as well. And so I would go through and put all the boards together. I'd put all the switches in, put the PCB on, and then I had like, I don't know if I took pictures of this or not, but I had like piles and piles of board, like boards filling up this table. Anytime I had like 80 boards on this table, like just ready to be, soldered and everything. And then they'd go through and solder them all, then they put it back on the table, and I'd put keycaps, put them in the cases, and then wrap them up and ship them. So,
Wow, that's impressive.
Impressive.
Impressive also because it's the only keyboard you can say, yeah, I fit 80 of them on my table.
well, they were also stacked, so it wasn't because I had key switches on the PCB, so it was a little easier to do. But a lot of these had LEDs too, so it wasn't just key switches.
Ooh,
we had all the LEDs and put all those in. So,
For those of you that don't solder, LEDs usually take quite a bit more time than switches themselves.
yeah, and plus you have to snip all of them too, so it's not just.
That's why they tend to take that much longer.
And of course, like, I had to test the LEDs too, and test the switches. I didn't test all the switches, but I tested most of them. Obviously I had to test the LEDs. That's the first thing you plug it in. Like, they're just not working. Send this back. So that was a pain.
So that was the first run of Planks on the Master?
That was the first run. Yeah, the second one we decided not to do that because, obvious reasons.
Yeah,
and then,
that's fair.
the third one, we got lucky enough that Mastershop's kind of ramping up to do their own like connection with the production and everything, and so they're taking over the whole production line, which is like for me crazy. Like that's this is the ideal configuration with me just sitting back designing, working on firmware, talking to people about future products and like helping people put it together or whatever. So it's pretty fortunate to get in this position. So if you have any advice, like people wanting to do this, try and talk to Mashup first. See if they want to, like, do a run of this before you have to assemble 400 keyboards. So.
Good.
Do you recall how many units the Planck sold in the second run?
Second one we had just under 1,000 because it was mapped at it was maxed at 1,000. The first one we had like 770 or something like that, and currently we're 1,600. So
for this third run, so that's really big. That shows
awesome.
that the community really wants those.
This is a kit too. Like I'd forgotten that the White Fox was assembled, I believe, and so this is just actual DIY kits. Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully in the future we can be able to offer that too.
Does the Planck have an assembled version for this run?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Hopefully the next drop will be able to offer that, but right now
I wouldn't want to be one of the people assembling 1,600, 1,800. There's still 4 days left, so this could easily get like 2,000 too, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
that last surge of everyone deciding, when's the next Planck drop going to be? I don't know when the next one's going to be, so I got to get it. That's like this hobby in a nutshell.
It's always in the store too, so it's not like it has to be, And that's kind of what's even more surprising, that this has been available the whole time. I've been telling people that the drop's coming, so it's like there's been a lot of hype. And
yep. Awesome. Yeah. That's good to hear. We're definitely going to be talking a lot more about you and the Planck and that whole thing, but I do want to transfer over a little bit to the news, because Bektour's on the news.
Oh, me?
Bektour's just popping up. Like anyone who's chatted and like been following the news lately, like Bektour's name has been out there. Bektour, why has your name been out there on our MK News this week?
That's a good question. 2 reasons, or maybe 3 reasons actually. Oh my god, that's a lot of.
This man's blowing up, guys.
Go in order.
I got 3 announcements. First of all, we're selling Tokyo Meetup stickers. Unfortunately, Boss Gamer, who was doing the dice up keycaps for Tokyo Meetup this time, is kind of busy with other projects, so he cannot do a group buy. As an alternative, I was thinking of approaching the dice up guy from Tokyo, but I personally I just want to support Boss Gamer because he did it for us for free. So just taking his business, I think it would be unfair. So I'm just waiting until he gets free again, and I could run a group buy for keycaps. But for now, we're offering Tokyo Meetup stickers. I think the link is in the chat. So please follow advice, like $5 per 10 pack, free international shipping, which is really nice.
Free international shipping is not as good as it gets.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not paying $15 for shipping for like a $5 pack of stickers. Like, no way. Couple of other announcements. The Adventure Night set that I've been doing for the past 2 years. I think I first posted it in like December 2015. The group buy finally is going live on Originative. I think it's in about a week or so. So if you're interested, the set is going to be like $130 per one set, and it goes like a big slab of keycaps. So you get like the full full keyboard plus a lot of extra keys. I even include a shift key for FC 660M keyboards, or like the ones that Keyboards is putting out. So you can have it. Like I did that because this keyboard is like one of the most accessible 60% in Japanese market right now. So like I would personally prefer to have an extra key, extra shift key. And another thing, I also design a prototype of a keycap set with kind of like a 50-50 layout. It's called GMK Dip. It's half of it is like blue and the other half is pink, and you can just check out the mockups. But it's something that I'm working on right now, and it would be interesting to try making it kind of like a split layout for instance, like a VIA keyboard or the Mr. Barocco keyboards that will be compatible. And coincidentally, it also has the same colors as the duo character from Overwatch, even though I don't play Overwatch that much. I don't play it at all, to be honest. I don't have money, and I have a Mac. And I'd like to have Overwatch novelties if possible.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
If you actually had Overwatch novelties, that might make me get this set.
Yeah. I kind of want to sell this set to like on Master of his Overwatch novelties, and I just get like 1,000 orders just
Look at cool.
first day. I don't know.
For Adventure Night, are you for the $130 base price? Can you cover an HHKB also?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So-
I first thing I tried. First thing I checked to cover HHKB.
Well,
You also get interesting like character accents. So, for instance, the homing keys F and J have colors of Finn and Jake.
yeah, I saw that because people were asking me like Huey, why is like the M have a accent key? I'm like, well, for Marcin, and then like, why is this other? I mean, for the characters, Adventure Time. They're like,
Yeah.
Because originally those accent keys, you only see the F and J first, and you see the other two. Like F and J, oh, that makes sense for accent keys. Those are your homing keys. My friends started asking me about like, what the hell are these other accent keys? What's your co-host Bektour thinking? He likes Adventure Time.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna get the set.
We're also going to have novelties for Adventure Night later. Actually, my friend Calvin, the Tokyo Meetup organizer, offered me help with designing those the legends for the icons for the keys, and he's a professional designer, so he knows design better than I am. So I hopefully we're going to have some nice novelties later. But first, we need to run the set and make sure that it works, and
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. $130 is pretty attractive for a full GMK set.
And it can get
About that.
cheaper if more people are going to get onto the set.
It's true. It can get cheaper.
That'd be cool. Let's do that. Let's make it cheap. I want to get this.
So Jack, now that Bektour is talking about a little bit of GMK and that's a set, have you used a GMK set with any of your plunks?
I haven't. I don't actually own any. I'm pretty immature when it comes to owning key sets like that. So I honestly have not gotten into a lot of the stuff that's considered like rite of passages. Because I'm kind of in my own like little world.
Your own bubble.
On a plate.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's not uncommon. I feel like for people that do like the specific kind of work that you do, they tend to care a lot less about things like keycaps and like artisans and even like switches, because it's just like it's all about the form factor. It's all about the layout and everything else is kind of whatever. At that point, you're still using a mechanical keyboard, so you'll win. On that note, how do you feel about switches? Do you have like a favorite switch, or do you kind of just use whatever?
Oh yeah, there's the Matthias Quiet Clickies on all my keyboards. All three of them I have. So
I like those switches.
They're pretty good. Yeah.
So Bektour, I do want to ask you about your Adventure Night set. What was the most difficult part on this still continuing 2-year journey of this set?
Well, one of the difficult parts was to get myself to work on this set, because no, seriously, it's super confusing. Like, for instance, when you make a set and you want to make sure that all keys are present, there's no real template for that. So you kind of have to look at other sets and be like, here is the set that I think has all the keys that I'm going to need and everybody's going to need, and I'm just going to copy that. And then you do that, and people are like, why do you have that key in there? I was like, I know, I just copied it. Why are you asking me? I'm doing this for you. I don't care about that key. And I had to go through like a couple of iterations of that, and I finally settled down on some kind of like a bunch of kits that I think are like the very bare bones kits. I think I stole them from Hyperfuse.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
You did.
Control Alt, I'm sorry, I stole it from Hyperfuse. But
oh no!
But my colorways.
First colorways, now supported keys.
It's the most popular set, and nobody complains about kits in Hyperfuse. I figured just take that and.
Well, I mean, if you did copy Hyperfuse completely, you can't do an HHKB then.
No, I can.
They don't have the proper 1U / pipe key.
That's true. True. I've ran into this problem.
As someone who has an HHKB like Brian and I, and has had hyperfuse like Brian and I'm surprised you didn't catch on this. Especially since in a previous episode, all three of us said we love HHKB so much.
I have that key right here. I'm just taking my way out right now. I have that. One U backslash key, right? The this one, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, just making sure, because you said you copied hyperfuse, and I know hyperfuse does not have it.
No, I made sure. Okay.
I mean,
this was the hardest part here.
I mean, I trust that you put it because I know you'd be upset if you made a set that didn't support an HHKB.
Yeah, because
I'm looking at the layout right now. He does have it in Adventure Night. He doesn't have the mod colored one though, which is kind of a turnoff for me.
Womp womp womp.
That's just me whining.
It's okay, Bektour. It's
I know Andy would like yell at me.
I mean, yeah. I mean, remember when we've talked to Andy and we've talked to other guests who've made key sets, they've all said the same thing. You can't make everyone happy. That's like, because even like, especially the European people who say I want this and this support, but there's only like 3 of you who will end up purchasing it when we need MOQ of 75.
And if we include that key, then everyone pays like $15 or $20 more for the set.
Yeah.
And that's unrealistic to ask everyone to do to please 3 people.
Yeah. That's another difficult thing in there was to figure out how to make those tiny icons that are being used in GMK sets, because actually those like icons I'm using in keyboard layout editors are actual like CII icons, which I didn't know that they existed in the first place. I thought they were like reserved from GMK. Turns out they're kind of like
nope.
The open source kind of thing.
Yeah, ASCII characters. Oh man, ASCII artwork. What is this, like junior high? I haven't done.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear, Bektour. Best of luck on your sets and all your future things and your stickers. That's got a handful. You're blown up in the news.
Yeah, blowing up.
You're so
Oh,
popular.
we got stickers. I forgot. I don't know if I mentioned that anywhere actually. I've been shipping OLKB stickers to everyone that has gotten stuff from the store recently.
Oh,
it's not a big thing, but
cool.
Feels like a milestone in my book. So.
All right. Well, since we're kind of still on the topic of key sets, let's roll through some of this other news, which a lot of which happens to be key sets, because that's what's big right now, I guess.
That's what's big.
So let's start with GMK Oblivion.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
We've talked about it several times. We even had Obletsky on the show recently, but he has now confirmed that it is coming in April. And this will be the GMK version, not the SA version.
So it's going to be the better version.
Correct.
That looks like Penumbra.
Possibly.
Don't start, Bektour.
Possibly correct.
Don't start with this.
But seriously, the white one looks like Penumbra.
A little, yeah. The white's a little bit more like white and not actually like yellow, but...
And the black one looks like the one that Kailh said that I bought last year. Okay, I'm just... Never mind.
Anyways, if you're into that, look forward to that, because that'll be launching in April.
Has Obletsky... He hasn't posted a price yet, has he?
I don't think... I think he told me the price. I don't know if he's posted about it.
Okay.
The price is pretty good, and it's in line with how much people have been paying lately for GMK sets. So,
cool.
$300.
In that, I think there are going to be a couple kits. As far as I know, there's going to be the base kit, and that's going to be like 120 or 130, which is pretty normal. There's going to be a monochromatic kit.
Mm-hmm.
So it replaces those...
The white keys with the gray and beige ones? It's the darker alphas, right?
No. Okay, so the monochromatic kit changes the colored alphas.
Oh.
Or the colored modifiers, the legends. It makes those just gray or white or whatever. So it's like there's no flashy colors. And I don't actually recall what the other kit was for, but he probably posted it somewhere in this thread.
Cool. Well, I am hyped for Oblivion.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I don't know what keyboard I'm gonna throw it on, but I'm gonna.
I'm still torn if I want it or not, because the problem for me, I like Nautilus more than I like Oblivion, and I think I like Solarized Dark more than I like Oblivion.
I like all three sets.
And I don't have enough money to just buy every GMK set that I like, so I have to like actually rank them and pick which ones I like.
Yeah, that's where it gets difficult.
We need like rate me, but for key sets.
Oh, I know. Like ratemykeyset.com.
Yeah, or like am I ugly, and you post a really pretty keycap set every time.
Yes.
So Jack, you mentioned earlier you haven't really had a chance to try GMK, but do you think at this point you would have if there was ever a Planck kit for any of GMK sets ever released?
Probably. I mean, I try to, whenever I see a key set that has a Planck kit in it, I usually try to get it, unless it's like really expensive. From, having to back
it was a
back
GMK
up the
set,
store.
it kind of is.
Yeah. Probably why I haven't participated in it yet, but yeah, I'm gonna try to. I mean, ideally, we'll actually have a Planck kit running up pretty soon, so that'd be cool. But.
Cool. Oblivion. Yeah, I'm gonna get with the white alphas because that's the best way to do it.
Also, I gotta mention that Blonsky offered me help with renders for GMK dip, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. One thing, I'm really hoping Brian, you, and Oblotsky can make another bet where someone else has to eat a pie for his for Oblivion. I'm not sure what an Oblivion pie would consist of. I would assume. Yeah, I would assume like ash, Bovril, just raw testosterone, and drugs. That's probably what.
I'm not making another pie bet. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But we often made the joke that for Metro essay, if that were to actually be a thing, that one of us would have to eat a train.
Over the course of a year.
Over the course of like an hour and a half, or however long that episode of Top Clack is, eat a train. Anyways,
yeah.
So more news.
You could say you would need some prior training for that bet. Okay, that was a very bad
speaking of more sets and speaking of more GMK sets, as Brian mentioned earlier, GMK Solarized Dark one day ago launched their interest check with fancy 4K renders, because the average person actually only still has a 1080p monitor, but that's okay. You got all that
zoom in, though.
Exactly. You got all that zoom in.
Yeah, that pixel density.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a 1440p monitor, so
you fancy.
It looks slightly better for me.
I gotta say, TS Camper has been doing those renders, as far as I remember, and they look great, like very photorealistic.
Oh yeah, but look at this. Look at the HHKB render, that layout. Oh, it's really good.
Yeah. I've been practicing my photorealistic stuff. Not quite as good as these, though.
He's got some detail on him.
Anyways,
we've talked about this set in the past, for sure. I think if you guys haven't watched that previous episode, Brian, Bektour, and I kind of all unanimously said we liked it, and we'd at least be keeping tabs on it. Brian, has it in a little list of key sets. He's going to have a little key set tournament, little round robin. Best key set wins Brian's heart.
I should do that, and I should have the community decide which key sets I
got you, yeah. Sponsored by Top Clack.
That's an awesome idea. I like that. Because that way I don't have to worry about it. I just buy whatever.
We should start accepting donations.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that eventually. Someday. Yeah. Someday we'll get you a nice microphone and camera that you need to unplug and replug in every time you start the show, like Brian and I.
Yeah, we're not doing so hot either.
But yes, but Solarized Dark, like I said, we've all seen it. The only thing at this point, Brian, Bektour, and I, and everyone else care about is going to be when and price. Other than that, I think for the most part we've seen enough renders. There's no more wowing these renders can possibly do for us, unless he magically had like the most magical novelties he hasn't shown off yet, which I doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's in more GMK Keyset news. I think that's, as far as I care about in Keysets, the last GMK Keyset news for this week. But we still have more news.
Yeah.
Let's move on to SA. That's another profile that people like for whatever reason, because it looks nice. But speaking of SA sets, SA Chocolatier finally shipped out. I don't know, some of you have seen posts on RMK that have created drama or whatever about people happy that they're getting their shipping notifications. Because, I remember we talked about a month ago, we were talking about how Chocolatier got delayed a month. So I guess it's finally here.
This picture that JChan posted for SA Camping confused me a little bit. It's actually missing several keys. Yes. And I asked him where they were. He said he ate them or something like that.
Nice.
Like, why don't you display all the keys, man?
But yeah, SA Camping, SA Chocolatier, they're going to be shipping out soon, so all the other SA sets are going to be late, but hopefully they're all in the queue of movement and production and...
Yeah, whatever. We won't be seeing SA sets for like years anyways, so...
Yeah.
Just don't even care anymore.
I guess, and the last SA set news, quote unquote, I guess it's kind of a good segue, is the Planck Keysets on Mass Shop right now that you can get. DSA, OEM, SA, what am I forgetting, guys? XDA, and is there one more? Or is
That's a lot of profiles.
Yeah, there's a good amount of profile options, and it's just for the Planck kit, so you don't need to worry about any other compatibilities. I believe it's both for the Grid M and MIT, or you could choose layout, either the 48 or 47 key.
Well, it's all the key sets come with enough keys for both. You don't have to choose that for buying.
Okay. So I think
the canvas one comes with a bunch of extra keys too, I think.
Well, that's awesome. I think I really like this because in the past, if you wanted to support a Planck, I used to have two. Like when I had my MX tactile gray one, you'd buy the base kit of a set, and then you'd buy the Planck kit of a set. So you'd be paying 120 to 160 plus another 40 to 80, depending on how much they wanted to jack up the Planck kit. And that ended up you paying over twice your keyboard's amount in keycaps.
Yeah. So
early planks that were like under $100.
This particular drop is really interesting to me, and I hope we do see more drops like it, where you actually focus on a specific board for a key set. The Planck obviously being something that's hard for standard key sets to be compatible without spending a lot of money. But here you can get a blank XDA set for $16 to cover a Planck. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you have several different profile choices. Like this is really cool. I hope we see this a lot more.
Like the OEM one's like $10. Like that was like, holy crap.
OEM, MX, ABS, white or black blanks, $10. Or with modifiers blanks, yeah, it's all $10. That's cheap.
Yeah. Some of the SA ones, SA and DS. Actually, DSA is pretty reasonably priced.
It's reasonable.
$28.
Yeah.
The SA is a little bit more expensive at $43, but still not terrible.
XDA is up at $38, which is it's a bit. It's for canvas though. It's not like a blank. Yeah, canvas. It is for canvas.
Yeah, if you get like the normal beige or black, they are $16. That's pretty cheap, especially if you want to try XDA, which is a pretty new profile in the scene. So this is a good way to kill two birds with one stone.
So Jack, as the connoisseur of Plancks here, of those profiles, what's your favorite profile for typing on the Planck and why, as opposed to the other ones?
Mine's always been some sort of OEM, and like for me, like I've tried a lot of DSA key sets, like because when I was starting the OLKB stuff, like Granite was the big thing then, and so we had tried to make a full Planck set with that and everything, but it's just the uniform profile couldn't do, and I really wanted to like SA, but the concaveness, or not the concaveness, but the just the profile didn't match what it should be, and I was researching today about is it Matteo's new profile? I don't know if it's called an M3 or not, but it's the high profile sculpted series.
Yeah.
And like so that the mindset they're taking with that is just like OEM high profile basically, and so it has the correct like contours where it's comfortable. And it's because of that I've always used OEM I'm currently using the Matthias's ABS OEM, which I really like. I've used for over a year, I think, 2 years maybe. So.
Well, hopefully one of these days Matthias will, fulfill their 3-year promise of giving us PBT OEM keycaps.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Edgar says he's been going to China, checking the factories, and we'll have our PBT keycaps eventually, but we'll wait.
Well, what happened to the SS profiles that you mentioned on the board makers last year?
SS? So yeah, we looked into that, and it's like 6K.
I remember the name because I was like, who would call it a Nazi profile?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does mean something. It's not just letters, but I think it was spherical sculpted because SA, like, from looking at I think this Jacobulus. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, if I even have it right in my head, but he did a lot of research on that, and like from the looks of it, it looks like SA was supposed to be like, so all the keys are tilted back like 6 or 7 degrees, and so like on a mounted or on a slanted mounted plate.
I remember seeing that chart.
Yeah, they'd all be vertical, and they'd have the correct profiles because they'd be like tilted back 6 degrees. So
plate would be like this, and the switches would mount like this, and then the keycaps would be like this, so they'd be perpendicular to the ground, even though the plate would be tilted, which is crazy.
Yeah, but the alternative to that is just all the key switches are tilted back, and the plate's flat, which is obviously hard to do, with plates. But the upright key switches. So with that mindset, like the whole SA profile we know now, and like the way people are using it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and like people find it comfortable, obviously. So it's not like it's too that absurd, but it's just not.
I don't think it's very comfortable.
I don't think many people think it's comfortable. I think it just looks cool.
It looks great.
Looks good.
Yeah.
It does look very cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like every time I talk to someone about SA, they're like, "Yeah, I don't like typing on that." Like, how is it like the most popular key set right now? That just goes to show you how much people care about aesthetics in this community over functionality.
Yeah, but so SS is probably dead unless someone wants to fork up $30,000. But Mattio's key set is supposed to be. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I think he's Italian, right?
Matteo is usually what I've heard people call him.
Okay,
I have no idea what it correctly is. I've never actually talked to him.
So hopefully that key set will replace what we know as SS, or like what people would want as SS. So.
For the people that are asking questions in chat, save those for just a little bit longer. We're going to finish up our news segment, and then we're going to swap over to Q&A. And then you can ask all of us, or any of us, whatever questions you want.
I got some questions about Planck as well, so...
Oh, we all do. Don't worry, this is going to be awesome. So, since we're on Mass Drop, what else is on Mass Drop? Something that you got to try out, Brian, that none of us else did, is these Kailh switches. You want to tell us a little bit about them again? Yeah. I mean, you touched upon them a little bit last week, Brian, but since it's live and it's up, you want to give us a little rundown on what's up?
Yeah, so I guess I'm one of the testers for this switch, or whatever you'd like to call it. I got sent 3 of the 4 varieties, so I am missing the normal tactile one, but so is Mass Drop. They never got the tester units. Kailh messed up and sent them, instead of the tactile one, they sent them like a duplicate of like the bronze clicky or whatever on accident. So none of us have got to try the tactile version yet, so we have no idea what that's like. But the other 3 are surprisingly good. I did talk about them a little bit on the last show, so I'm not going to go too in-depth with it this time. But the TLDR is they are much, much better than you might think they are, and they are leagues and leagues above what Kailh used to be, which was like, the comedic switch. Like, everybody just bashed on Kailh in the community for years because they made awful switches, like really, really bad. But this iteration is quite a bit better. I do think it competes with Gateron. I think these are more interesting than pretty much any other MX style switch on the market right now. So definitely check that out. The price is pretty reasonable. I think per switch it's like a little bit more expensive than Gateron, but like I said, I think they're also more interesting than Gateron. So yeah, definitely check them out. I'm gonna be joining this drop.
So, Brian, for a lot of people might be wondering about the clicky switches, because there's 2 kinds and they they don't differ in spring weight, which most clicky switches do. Want to give people a little more of a detail other than all the mass drop page says, which is 1.4 millimeter plus or minus 0.03 in pre-travel and 1.1 plus or minus 0.03, because that doesn't tell us anything.
So these are actually pretty interesting. This is the most interesting of the bunch in my opinion. This is the bronze clicky switch, and it's actually a linear, but inside. Okay, I'm not going to open one right now, but there's actually on the reverse side of the switch, not the side with the switch leaf, but the other side, there's a metal pin that goes fucking
back and forth.
Why can't I think of the word? Not horizontally. It goes horizontally, and there's on the stem there's a little leg that protrudes out the back, and it hits that on the way. Like just barely, and then that's what provides the clicky sound. It's like directly at the top of the press, and you can't feel the tactility. There's virtually no tactility unless you press it very, very slow and you're looking for it. But in an actual real typing world experience, it's a clicky linear, which I never really thought was possible. But this makes a lot of sense now that I've actually seen it in person and used it. So pick up some of these if you're in the mood for something interesting.
I'm gonna pick those up. I'm gonna pick those up.
Which are these again? What color?
So this is
that one was bronze.
Yeah, this is called the bronze. The bronze clicky is what Massdrop calls it. Mm-hmm. There is a little mix up with the naming scheme between what Massdrop calls them and what Kailh calls them. So the bronze is correct. The silver is correct. The normal gold is correct. That's the traditional clicky that we think of when we think of clicky switches. And then Massdrop has the copper the copper tactile, but Kailh calls it thick gold. I think they don't recognize the term copper for that switch, as far as I'm aware. So Massdrop changing up the wording just a little bit, but I think it makes more sense to English-speaking people. Because otherwise you have gold and thick gold as opposed to gold.
It's Massdrop's version of dubbing / subbing.
Yeah. So
not to this shit again.
So the switches are pretty interesting. You should definitely check them out if you're something like in the market for something new. Because if you're like me, I've been getting kind of bored with like all the switches, the MX style switches that are on the market. Like Cherry MX is not terribly interesting. Gateron, is cool, but not terribly interesting. So it's nice to see something like this actually hit the market and mix things up.
You can actually buy just enough for a Planck too. You don't have to buy.
Yeah, they do sell it in the amount 40 something amount.
49.
So an extra one.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like 49 for I don't know, like $11 or $12
for $17.88 after shipping and tax to California, but otherwise it's $11.99.
Okay, yeah, or it's $28 before shipping for a pack of 120.
Yes.
I kind of wish they did it like in a smaller.
I wish they did 49, 61, I think it is, or 62, and then 120. So 40%, 60%, and then full / TKL in one.
Yeah, it should be like 50, 70, and like 110 or something 110, like that. Yeah,
because 104 is the biggest.
Whatever Originative does with their mod switches, those are increments. That's what they always need to be.
Those are good increments, because they cover everything.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited. I mean, you've talked pretty well about these, so I'm pretty excited to try these out. I mean, even the pictures, you can see how interesting the housing looks. So, based on the housings, it looks like you can't take them off if they're mounted on a switch, even if it's a switch removable plate. Is that correct?
That's correct. So these are actually just like
the Fosens.
In terms of style, it's just like the Fosen or like the original Kailh switches. There's actually no holes for the switch top removal on either side. You actually have to open them from the bottom, which is kind of a letdown for me. But a lot of people mod their switches before they put them in boards anyways. So this might not affect a lot of people.
And with something like the Minivan's plate, where it has like I think this is the case, it has the whole cutout or the whole side cutout rather than the jog in that supports the switch. Do you think that would support it? was trying to talk to Yambo the other day about this.
That's a good question.
Like,
so, yeah, I think what you're referring to is when you have a plate that supports switch top removal, there's actually, like, there's two main variations. There's one where it's like the cutouts look like an H, and there's two little things that hold the switch in place. And then there's also one where people take what I call the lazier way out, and they just make the hole a little bit larger, a little bit longer, wider.
Right.
That's what they usually do if it's also ALPS compatible. Because that will fit ALPS. That's why they make it bigger. That's why it's the lazy way.
Yeah.
Well, because the cutout I had, like last drop, I don't know if you guys know what it is or anything, but it was engineered to fit Cherry Max and ALPS at the same time, but also have them be both secure without having them jogging around. That's what caused all the issues with things not fitting whatever. So that's whatever. But it doesn't fit the what is the I don't know how to pronounce anything. The mouse or the new switches that have they don't use the standard cutout that the Cherry Max ones do. They go out wider at the tops and bottoms, so they wouldn't fit into that switch style at all. So my compromise was to make those compatible, but then go to the old cutout, which wouldn't allow these to take the tops off of. So disappointing, but
yeah, I think the finale here is that you can't open these from the top regardless of the plate, especially because once you have it soldered into a PCB, you can't get at the sides.
Yeah, the sides to pull those tabs out to open it.
Yeah, regardless of how the plate's designed, you can't get at those sides while they're in a plate and soldered into a PCB.
At least not if you want switches next to that switch.
That's true. I guess you could probably figure out a way to do that, but nobody, you put switches in every spot. So.
Exactly. But that's gonna be exciting. I'm gonna order some switches. I think a decent amount of people will be just try them out. Like we mentioned, we had Hata on the show, and he's been raving about the X-Stoles of Kailh and how they've changed Kailh and they're not Razer shit anymore. Brian said it's kind of true. I'm still skeptical, but I'm gonna try it out with these switches. How do you, Jack? Do you ever get a lot of different kind of switches just to play around with different Planks?
I just ordered the ones we're talking about. Aside from that, I have a bunch of leftovers from last drop because the ones I assembled, I had a bunch of switches left over from. But then after that, on the second drop, I just ordered a bunch too, just so I have in the store. But I don't sell them anymore, so I have a bunch of Gatorons and MX and Mantius ones that I've messed around with. But aside from that, I haven't really, had access to a lot of other ones.
Something to take note of that I actually mentioned on the Mass Drop thread is Hata did use his force graph or force curve machine or whatever on these switches, and the numbers came out looking a little interesting. So if you actually take a look at it, let me try to find it for you. I'll use the linear as an example. So the linear actually actuates at 27 grams, which seems very, very, very low. And oddly enough, these feel heavier than any red switch I've ever used. So let me just pull this graph up real quick. Because when I saw this, I was like, "There's no way that's right. This has to be wrong."
What if it is wrong?
And
do you want to be the person to tell Hata he messed up? I don't.
No. Here's what I think. Here's what I think happened, and here is why you shouldn't necessarily use these graphs to tell you how this particular switch is going to feel.
Hey, do you know that Kailh now sells whole ties from their website?
Okay, we did not know that, but now we do.
I'm just ordering right now while they're still in stock. Just keep talking.
Anyways, so here the linear, the silver linear actuates at like 25 or something, and it bottoms out just over 50. I think it's at 53, and that's really low. That's much lower than what you'd see from like a Cherry MX Red or a Gateron Red. But the silver actually feels heavier. And so the reasoning for that is the pre-travel and the shorter actuation, because the Kailh switches are speed switches. So you're much closer to the actuation point when you press it, and that's why 27 grams is actually probably very correct. even though it feels heavier. So that pre-travel, that shorter distance, actually makes the numbers look a little skewed. So if you look at that graph and you go, oh my god, that switch is way too light for me, just think it's actually a little bit, in real world practice, it feels heavier than any red switch.
Cool.
So there's that.
Definitely want to keep in mind. Let's finish up these news topics. We only have a few left, I believe. We've covered most of them. Do we want to cover the last one? I mean, it's hilarious, but
that's
it's not like news.
I'm just going to delete that right now.
Thank you.
It's not news.
That's not even close to worth talking about.
Okay, so we have two last things. So I guess we'll start with JTK sliders. They're finally shipping. You want to check out Geek Hack. Bunny posted a picture earlier today. Packing sorted. Bunny's going to be shipping out 98 orders tomorrow, and the day after that, another 134. So if you've ordered your JTK sliders from the sophomore buy or the freshman buy, because a lot of them were holdover orders, they'll be shipping out soon, so hopefully you'll get your sliders. One thing I did notice odd about them, do you guys notice for like the stabilized keys, they have it in the HHKB style slider and not the NovoTouch style? Do you guys notice that?
I think they're like not the NovoTouch style.
Yeah, they're the HHKB style, so they don't have the two-side things. So if you want to put those sliders, for example, onto your HHKB, you're going to have to cut holes in your HHKB.
Yeah,
or you have to cut your stems off of the stabilized keycaps. Otherwise, it's going to hit the housing.
That is pretty interesting. I wonder why they would choose that.
So they want you to use your, not drill the holes. They want you to use the HHKB housing, but then you can't stabilize a big enough key unless it doesn't have. You have to take out the side stabilizers. You either modify your keycaps. And I'd rather drill holes in my HHKB, which I have twice on two different HHKBs. I'd rather do that than, drill my keycaps and have them only work for one board and then become wobbly for every other. So, I mean, I think that's kind of an issue, in my opinion, but it is nice that at least with the 1U sliders, you get like 101 of them, which is a lot. Yeah.
Yep.
That's news.
Wait, 101?
I believe it's like 100. You get like 101 U sliders as well as some like.
Oh, you get the stable. Okay.
And
so you'd be able
to
outfit a full-size Real Force with one pack.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. But otherwise, it's fine. I think a lot of people will be hopefully happy about it. Last thing we have in the news is a different 40%. Evan, the Van Keyboards, a great guy. Minivan Round 4 and Roadkit Round 2 is in stock at his shop at vankeyboards.com. They're both programmable 40% keyboard or programmable macro pad. But they're kind of pricey IMO. Minivan kit, $300. Roadkit, $150.
Seems a little steep to me,
a bit steep. I mean, you don't even get, switches or stabilizers. It's just like the base kits for both of those.
Okay.
So that is basically it with the news. We're going to start Q&A in a bit, so everyone in chat, as usual, any questions you have, feel free to shoot them in chat, and we'll read them out loud to all of us. But we're going to start it off, as always, with our signature top clack question. Jack, do you prefer to eat waffles or pancakes?
Oh, waffles. Hands down. We have a waffle maker.
Nice.
I just made some yesterday, so I'm very fresh in my mind.
All right.
That's fair.
Well, wasn't the right answer, but that's fine.
So I do have a question. It's kind of similar to what I asked Bektour about his path for his key set. So you've been working on the Planck and all of your other projects for a bit over 2 years now. I do remember when you opened up 2 years ago in January, because at that time is when I got with my ex-girlfriend and she got into keyboards, and the Planck was like my first custom that I built and bought for myself, which was really cool. So I remember that from the really, really beginning. I remember emailing you as well, a lot of questions I had about stuff before I ordered. So one question I do have, it's been 2 years and change. What are some of the best and worst parts of 2 years and change?
Oh, geez. Worst is easy. The second drop, we had issues with the plates, and that was rough. Because it's like, I don't know how much we talk about this on the podcast. Probably not at all, actually. I think what we talked about recently this year, but like that, the blame on that like falls from like to me to the shop to mass shop. Like every party is just like a little bit at fault, so it's just so hard to like to go forward with a plan to like fix things. It was just a mess with having to deal with all the people upset, like, you know, because it's not just like people being upset, it's like they can't build their keyboard, and that's like the worst thing, to have a situation where like they can't even use it, you know. And then, you know, like the official advice being to file it down, like that's just like that's not, you know, that's not what we need to do. So looking back, I wish we would have just have like done like a production of all the, you know, just redo the plates like in a different layout or something, and had sent all those out rather than having to do all the refunds and everything. But yeah, can't really do anything about that now. Aside from that, like there's always like quality issues with my shop, just because like I feel like I'm really like the shop I go through here locally is just like super cheap. Like from what I have seen, like pretty comparable to places overseas even. And like with that, I like, you know, obviously comes like a quality issue, like with like certain cutouts being, you know, a little rough, or like some things don't quite get the attention they deserve, which is, you know, fine I think as a whole, but it's hard to, there's a balance between like trying to make it as cheap as possible, but also like making it so it's not gonna, you know, cut your finger off when you're putting switches in. So
definitely, yeah.
But as far as the best, like I think just interacting with people, like once they get it and seeing how excited people are about it, is pretty cool. Like if I think back, like, you know, this is something that I kind of like I designed and made, and like, you know, it's in their hands because of stuff I did. That's kind of cool. It's neat to think about, like, you know, how responsible I am to like them being happy. It's kind of makes me feel pretty good. So
awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good way to look at it.
my favorite combo was Planck and Microsoft Surface. That was pretty cool.
That's a good combo.
I had like how do you call it? It's kind of like a crouton. So it's a traditional Russian kind of like a baked crouton. So it was the exact size of a Planck. I took a photo. I was like, my Planck is the size of a cookie. My keyboard is the size of a cookie. It's just crazy. Has technology gone too far?
Okay, now moving to some of the questions we had in chat. Let's start with Living Speed Bump. He noticed earlier in the episode your instruments in the background. He does want a little bit of a walkthrough of what you have behind you.
This is a guitar podcast now. A few episodes ago, I just started talking about guitars. And
this one's an old hollow body. It was pretty broken when I got it, and I glued it back together. It's like an arch top, that sort of thing. It's a Barclay.
Oh,
pretty cool. That's the one I play a lot.
Did you glue the neck back, or?
Yeah, it was kind of breaking off here. It was kind of just like it wouldn't really hold the tune, so I had to glue some of it back together. And then, sorry, I keep forgetting to turn my head. And then I have like 10, so I don't know if we really want to go through all of them, but
I guess just give Living Speed Bump your top two, and I'm sure Bektour will be happy with that as well.
Okay, here's a tidbit that's interesting. So last year we did a bunch of cutouts, or we did a bunch of middle pieces, right? The wooden middle pieces for like the sandwich style kits for the Planck. Well, Planck and the Atomic and the Neutrino, I think. And we had a bunch of these like middle pieces that were like, you know, just like the parts that were left over. And so we shipped out these little tiny strips of wood, and we left with this huge chunk of it. And so we ended up having to, just hold on to them because we didn't know what to do. But I took all the Paduke ones, which is like a red color, and I ended up gluing them all together and making a guitar out of it. It's in the shop right now, but it's pretty cool. Once I get it completely finished and everything, I'm going to put pictures on OLKB so people can like, this is what I did from all the parts that I had left over. But and then
is it an electric or acoustic guitar?
Electric, yeah.
Wow.
A lot easier than doing acoustic.
Where do you get the neck from, though? It's like I
made the whole thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's.
It's not my first guitar that I built. So I have one. I don't think you can see it, but it's like if you're familiar with.
I think that's how they make guitars in Indonesia or China as well, from different pieces or whatever they got.
Recycled wood.
Leftovers. What was the other one?
So if you're familiar with Jack White et al. And his signature JB Hudo guitar, I'm a huge fan of that, and so I have a guitar back here that I made that looks like that, and the red one that I'm talking about with the blank pieces looks like that too.
Oh.
So the first guitar I made actually looks like that. It's red. You can't really see it. So that's one I like a lot, but it doesn't get played much anymore because it was like the first one I made. But I don't know.
Do you play White Stripes cover band?
No, I've thought about it, but I can't find a drummer, and my girlfriend doesn't want to. So.
Anyways, back to keyboards.
Well, yeah, I could talk about guitars for another hour.
Before some of these questions get muddled in here, Cassidy asks, "Will there be another drop point for the Planck? It's almost at 1,700 orders. It would be awesome."
Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of like trade-offs there. They're like kind of internal. It's like if you lower the price here, then people next time are going to be less likely to get it until that point. And so,
yeah,
at this point, I don't think so.
I think personally, 110 is already pretty reasonable.
That's kind of what we're thinking. Like
that new case is pretty nice, actually.
Yeah.
I think 110 is already pretty good personally.
The trade-off I'm trying to make, or the justification I'm trying to make, is not to do a tier this time, but hopefully next round, lowering it by $10. That's kind of my goal right now, and I realize that doesn't help anybody that's currently in it. But they want another one, so $10 cheaper. And just kind of as a whole, just trying to make it cheaper and make it more affordable for people.
Cool. That's good. So another question.
Surfer. Wait, which one are you going to?
Robot Maxron. He asked the same question really earlier as well.
Okay.
Jack, can you talk about your experiences maintaining and developing QMK and working with the open source community? And this is from Robot Maxron, who runs ergodox.io and probably one of your fanboys for QMK. He's a big proponent of it.
Yeah, he's contributed stuff. I believe he's pretty active. Yeah, I was sending you stuff about that whole soft PMW backlight thing. I think that was you. For your test out on your something or other. Sorry, I don't remember what it was. Yeah, that's a cool story too, because it started as just a fork of TMK, and I had it as a fork for the longest time, and just pointing people there is like, for default Planck and whatever stuff, go here, and ended up talking to Erez Zuckerman, who does the ergodox EZ stuff, and he really liked the fork, and he talked to me and was like, hey, like, can I use this for my keyboard? I was like, sure, go ahead, do whatever you want. He's like, I kind of want to like make it, put a name to it so I can call it something besides Jack's fork of TMK. And I was like, okay, I'll think about that. And I spent some time thinking about it, and like I already have like the science name going for like the Planck Prionic and whatever. So I was like, let's try to think of something related to that. And that's why I picked Quantum, because it was kind of like, a little bigger than that. And yeah, the QMK became a thing, and it wasn't used for anything else. So I kind of got lucky with the initialism there. And then shortly after that, I think we added Zach or Scully Dazed as a collaborator as well. He's somebody, I think he was one of the first people that bought a Planck. I think he was in the first 50 people that bought one. And talked to him here and there about stuff from time to time. And he's obviously a programmer, so that fit right in with the collaborator mindset.
I got a couple of questions for Planck. I know there is another question in chat, but I'm just skipping the queue. Sorry about that. Are there any plans of making like the Planck with one extra row to the right or to the left or whatever? Just like instead of like having
like a 14x4 type thing.
Kind of like that, yeah. Because my only complaint with Planck is that like I type in Cyrillic and where where you have the brackets that you move to function row, I have the actual letters in there. So imagine it's like a letter P suddenly on your function row, and it's incredibly frustrating. It's impossible to type. And I was wondering, and I'm not the only one who had this complaint. I've heard a couple of other people who also writing Cyrillic saying that it's hard to type that way, and I was wondering if there's like a way to make a slightly longer Planck.
Okay, so like, because like the subatomic would be too big, right? Because it's a 5 by 14.
Yeah, so just like slightly longer.
I don't know if that's in our future, because like the thing with these keyboards I'm trying to keep in mind is like having it be centered on, like, so you have the two unit key would be in the center, and so like putting it one off would make it not centered, and that kind of jive with my aesthetic.
Yeah,
it kills the vibe.
If you do both, it's too close to a Prionic or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be like a different.
Prionic. Another thing, any plans for RGB Underglow?
So with the next round of PCBs, I think we're going to try to have at least the footprints for those, so we won't have them like built in. You can solder them on, with just the 4 pads or whatever. So I think we're going to try to do that for the next round. I think it'd be cool.
Awesome.
That's the future in a keyboard for me.
That'd be great having a steel plate, steel bottom, acrylic mid, RGB underglow plonk. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, just something I want to do in general is acrylic cases too. If we end up doing the RGB stuff, I think that'd be.
Or it's a full acrylic high profile plonk case.
Yeah. What's his name? I don't know if he has his public name as his username. N33D.com. Bathius, is that his username? He does. Sorry, he does the wood and acrylic cases for the Planck. I don't think he has them up right now, but he's making those at home with his own CNC, I think. So that was awesome. I wish more people would do that, because that's just like,
that is awesome.
Oh, I don't do the acrylic case, because someone else is doing it. So because I have trouble finding like sources for like, he's literally making it at home, so that's probably what I would have to end up doing too.
Yeah. So about 10 minutes ago, NB Surfer asked a pretty simple question. He says, just a general question, going to be building my first board. Do most LED indicators come on the PCB itself, or do you need to install an LED for, let's say, the caps lock switch indicator? Or is that just depending on the PCB? So if you want an LED for the caps lock, for instance, you will need to put the LED in yourself. Very few boards come with. Actually, the only ones that do will actually have like SMD LEDs on the PCB itself for like RGB backlit or something. But that's quite rare. If you buy like a standalone like 60% PCB, for example, there's only a couple that will have that. So in most scenarios, you'll be putting the RGB. Or sorry, the LED there yourself.
And even on like the scenarios where you have a place on the PCB, like with the Phantom, where you have a separate indicator, you still need to get your LED and soldered in yourself for the ones on the side for the TKLs, as opposed to like the in switch indicator, which is different. Okay, next question. What is the next question, Brian? Do you have another one queued?
I had that one saved because I know that one was like so long ago. Now I'm just trying to go back through. All right, here we go. This one's for Jack. Do you struggle switching to staggered layouts now?
I rarely type, so I have a MacBook that obviously doesn't have a keyboard built into it besides the built-in keyboard is staggered. And that's kind of hard to switch to sometimes, but for like reasons that aren't necessarily because it's staggered, just because it's chiclet and they're flat and it's labeled in Colmac, which actually makes it harder to type in Colmac for me since I since I learned how to touch type and everything. But I don't really switch back and forth that often, but it is hard. Because usually when I'm using a staggered keyboard, I'm using QWERTY, because I use Colmac on my Planck and everything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend buying as many Plancks as you can.
Well, actually, that's funny. That's funny. I've told these guys, and I've told like every single other person who asked me about 40%. It's like, Huey, if you had a 40%, which one would you use? And I've owned 2 of them. I'm going to own a 3rd one in the future, but for me, it's the Planck for 40%, because, like you said, you type in Colmac, I type in Dvorak, so I need 12 keys in the home row, and most 40% turn your pinky into the enter key, which I just loathe with entirety.
Dvorak doesn't even really fit on the Planck either, which is something I didn't realize until like last year.
Yeah, when I got my my Plancks, I modified them I had my own Dvorak, and it worked fine. Yeah. But it's the closest thing that can properly fit Dvorak.
If anybody knows of a better default layout for Dvorak, I've changed it since I learned that it didn't fit or whatever. But if anyone has like a better alternative, I'm all ears because the current layout I'm not super happy with.
If I can find my old one, I can send it to you. Mine work. Oh, for me, mine works pretty well.
Because Adam used Dvorak, but he used a modified version of Dvorak.
Oh.
And I don't know if he ever committed his layout, but he had like the E key on his thumb.
Oh gosh.
And like I think he had a D key down there too or something.
Oh, I think he might have been one-handed Dvorak, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. MB Surfer just wants to double check. Do you need to SIP socket the switch and install the LED itself? If you want to SIP the socket the switch, yeah. If you don't want to SIP socket the switch, you don't have to. You can just throw the legs right through your switch if it's going to go in your switch and solder those legs onto the PCB and SIP the extras. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, SIP socketing is 100% optional.
I got another question regarding Planck. Are there any plans on using like analog switches? For instance, first time when I got Planck, I was surprised how small it is. It's basically the size of a gamepad. So I was wondering if you could do something like a convertible gamepad mode for Planck. For instance, if you have like an analog switch or a joystick or like a, I don't know, trigger or whatever, that would be pretty interesting.
The gamepad is pretty interesting. Sorry, I just saw Toggle Jesus on. I am using the Bowers and Wilkins headphones. I got it in a trade for a Planck, so. But the gamepad is pretty interesting to me. I'm part of the Wooting One Kickstarter, and I got like the extra pack of switches because I want to try to turn those into a Planck and use the analog like optical switch and everything. So that's on my list of things to try in terms of like actually using the switches as a joystick and everything like that. But yeah, I have a few libraries sitting in QMK that allow you to take analog input like that and turn it into actual like output, like as a joystick and whatever, or just use it with MQMK for switching layers or whatever. Yeah, I'm super interested in doing something like that. So. It's kind of time.
Cool. Another question from Demo Balderez asks, have you considered doing a split board jack? Considering the LED split is not widely available and the ergodoxes are a totally different thing, maybe it'd be a worthwhile idea to explore.
Yeah, and there's actually, so I'm trying to plan my own thing that's kind of like a mini ergodox type thing. It's not strictly ortholinear. It has like a staggered column layout. And what was the thing? The thing that just popped up today. It's like on the top of RMK right now. That. Sorry, I'm trying to think of what it was. Just look it up real quick. It's the finally graduated from my gaming keyboard. What's it called? Atom Computer made the split thing. Which is kind of what I'm thinking of, but the version I'm trying to work on has 6 columns, and it's basically more like a split Planck, really.
Oh.
It's 48 keys.
Like the top post on RMK right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So relevant. Yeah, it's 48 keys, and then it has like 4 on the bottom row, but then 2 are for your thumb. So kind of like that, but then an extra thumb key. And I've kind of been playing around with that. I have a prototype somewhere around here. I don't know where it is right now. But it's kind of interesting. It's not going to be strictly like it's not going to be like the list split layout at all. It's going to be, like more like that. But we're thinking about it after. Did you link? Oh, you did. Okay. After we do this subatomic, I think we're going to try to work on it, and we're trying to throw in as much as possible too, because we're going to basing it off of that new PCB revision, which will have the new speaker stuff and like the bigger chip and some audio stuff that's going to work into it. So,
Cool. Any other questions?
What is better about Colmac than QWERTY? What a loaded question! What a loaded question.
That's a very loaded question.
Well, take it away, Jack.
Okay, so when the typewriter was invented, it went A to Z, right? But that didn't work because when you hit keys, things got jammed, right? And so they took a lot of those keys and swapped them around and made it so they didn't get jammed quite as often. But if you look at a QWERTY layout, like you can clearly see like where the remnants of A through Z are. Like there's a lot of letters that are still, in the row from ABC. And so that was the layout for the longest time. And then this guy called Dvorak, or Dvorak, depending on where you're from, came out with the Dvorak layer for typewriters that does the same thing, but thinks more about ergonomics and what keys are used more frequently, and tries to minimize finger movement and everything. And that didn't take off. There's a lot of reasons that that's the case. There's like some YouTube videos that'll explain that to death. But then the computers came around, and Colmac was one of the ones that came out. I don't remember exactly where it came from, but it kind of took it into the mindset of like, okay, a lot of these computer programs are already like using QWERTY, right? And so it leaves the bottom row mostly the same, where a lot of those shortcuts are, like undo, copy, paste, and cut and everything. But then tries to move everything else around so that you have like optimal finger movements, and like the home row is like the most used keys and everything. So personally, I think Colmac is better than Dvorak, even though I used Dvorak for like 5 years until I made my first Planck, and I switched to Colmac. So that's my quick opinion on that.
And to add on a little much, my side is a bit more from Dvorak, because I decided to go, full balls to the wall and do Dvorak. Yeah, it's like Jack said, it's pretty ergonomic. I like Dvorak. It's just, I don't like it because it's different than QWERTY, but I like the differences it has in QWERTY, which...
It's okay to like it because it's different
that's
too.
True.
I mean, it's not...
Well, saying that makes me sound hipster, though. Even though there's nothing wrong, I guess, with being a hipster nowadays, because it's kind of a catch-all phrase.
Well, yeah. It's okay to like it because it's different.
But I just fell in love with... Oh, I have a love-hate relationship with Dvorak, because I can't type on a normal keyboard anymore, really. I can only basically type on Dvorak. Yeah, so I used to type QWERTY at like 90 to 100 words per minute. Then I stopped typing QWERTY and went straight to Dvorak. Now I do Dvorak at between 120 and 140, but my QWERTY has gone down to like 50. Like
so you can still type. You can still type better than that.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I feel abysmally slow when I do it, even though it's like faster than average.
Yeah.
But it's helped my wrist and my hands a good amount. But it's not for everybody. So if you're thinking about it, it does take some time. I did it during college when I had a lot of time where I could get away with typing slowly. That's why I could do it. But most professionals, if you like are a coder, for example, and you're typing 12 hours a day, doing a sudden complete switch to, even if it's Colmac, which is closer to QWERTY than Dvorak, I'd probably say it's pretty difficult.
I guess I didn't really answer the QMK question now that I'm thinking about it, but the whole community aspect of it is awesome. Like, so we accept a lot of pull requests from like anybody who wants to submit a layout, basically, or a key map. And like we support tons of keyboards, and like we're always adding or trying to add more. So like the whole aspect of like, this works with this keyboard, but if you have another one that like you want it to work with, just open an issue, and someone probably has already started boarding it, or like you can board it pretty easily if you know how to like edit a config file. And like we get so many, like Algernon is the guy behind all the tap dance stuff, which is I think taken off in the community. People love that, and there's just so much stuff that people just added to it and like try to make it better. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. I'm super grateful to people like everyone like fixing my mistakes, because I'm like going through and like writing code at 3 a.m. and make a commit that breaks everything. So
okay, what other questions?
Is that it?
Yeah, that's surprisingly not many questions as I expected.
I guess real quick, FlameRay X, what did I use to learn Dvorak? I just kept practicing. Was my key thing. I do go on a lot of like typing test websites, like 10 Fast Fingers, or my personal favorite is keyhero.com. And when I practice Dvorak, I literally would just sit down for my computer in like 2 hours a day and just do typing tests. And as I'd watch my average slowly climb, that's all I can say to practice like a new layout. That's all. You just have to practice until it's like finger memory. Oh, good one. From Regulicious. Jack, prior to the Planck, what was your daily driver?
So before the Planck, I was it is my daily driver currently. It has been. I switched to the Prionic a couple times trying to get used to it, because I want to like try to take a keyboard and like figure out what the default layout should be, And so I've done that a couple times. I'm going to do the same with the subatomic whenever I get that finished and wired and everything. Before that, I had that custom, was it 16 by 5 keyboard I used. But before that, I had a Type Matrix 2030. I have 2 of those. One broke, and so I ordered another one. But they have they supported Dvorak and Comac out of the gate. So
yeah,
it was like a huge
thing. Those are cool boards.
Yeah. And I think I talked about this recently on the podcast, but like I reached out to them when I was a lot younger, when I first bought the board. It's like I was giving them like this stupid advice about like where the command key should be or like where the control key should be. It should be like closer to the thumb and everything. And looking back, I'm like, it makes sense because I ended up making a keyboard that has like that mindset. So that was pretty funny, but pretty cringy too. It was like me talking to the sales rep about what they should do for their keyboard. But.
Any high profile but non-inclined 60% case? Not that I know of. If your wrists are hurting, my advice is maybe try wrist rests for the inclined cases. But all the high profile cases I can think of for the most part will be inclined. Maybe Tex used to have a high profile flat case. Is the only one I can think that might have had one.
The minivan is, but that's not 60%.
Not 60%.
Obviously.
If Tex had a high-profile alu case, 6%, that's the only one I can think of that possibly would have a completely flat case that's high-profile. I know they're only known for their low-profile stuff, though. So
I don't want to give too much away, but the Prionic will have a high-profile, non-inclined case.
So
there you go.
Prionic.
Nothing to think
about. Jacob's Mirror actually comes up clutch. Zip ties 3D prints cases.
Oh, right. Zip ties cases.
And
right.
he will gladly print you a flat, high-profile case.
I don't know why I didn't think of it. I used to own one. I don't know why.
I know. I did too, actually. That's really odd.
Oh, another one. What's San Diego? What's his name? He made us the cases, Brian, of acrylic.
Jollymon.
Jollymon. Yeah. He has flat acrylic. Oh, they're acrylic, but they're 6% flat cases. I have
the case right here.
You can take out those feet and it'll be flat.
Yep,
those feet are actually pretty aggressive IMO, so for a lot of people, taking them out would be probably the best bet than using it on.
Yeah. Otherwise, it is a high-profile acrylic case. So if you want acrylic, high-profile 60%, go to Jollymon on Reddit. And if you want 3D printed plastic, go to Zip Ties. But if you want what I'm assuming is going to be a metal, then wait for the Prionic.
or get a disc sander and stick your incline one to the side. Don't forget to wear your safety gear too.
I guess the last question we really have is from Forever Madrigal. What do you think about mermaids? I don't.
What?
You are. That's a lie. You are right now. You're thinking about mermaids right now because you saw that question.
I said no, and I'm moving on. It's not as simple as the game.
I think they deserve.
Oh no,
anyone
not
else,
the game.
It's not that simple. Yeah, that's true. We should wrap it up very soon. I guess I will start by rolling the video outro right now. Freaking love the intro outro. It's so great. Okay, so everyone who is watching, thank you so much for joining us on another wonderful, wonderful Thursday at 6 p.m. Thank you, Jack, so much for coming out and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. We hope to have you again in the future as well. Thank you for sharing so much about the Planck and its whole history and everything. For me, that was really awesome to hear. I'm sure a lot of people in chat would probably agree as well, because even as small as it is, every part of the keyboard community is unique and great in its own way. And this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the strongest facets of the community, those who are really loving the ortholinear. And the sales numbers don't lie either. You have definitely a great following. So
I like to think the marketing and advertising help there too.
So once again, everyone in chat, thank you so much for watching. We'll be up again every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 Eastern if you ever want to check us out. twitch.tv/topclack, but you know that because you're watching, unless you're going to be watching this on YouTube, which at this point I'm surprised you'd be still watching if you do watch the whole thing, because they're literally like an hour and a half each, but thank you for watching for those who do. Yeah, and I'm just going to say some random words for about 5 seconds, so then when I cut the stream, it will cut on time, like right about